I was really excited, and there was a lot of expectation around seeing Ange Postecolgou, seeing AngeBall with Tottenham in the Premier League. But the real story this week was Harry Kane is out the building. He's went to Germany, and this is the first game in like a decade that Tottenham have went out there without Harry Kane. And with it happening really last minute, right before this match, there was a lot more attention and a lot more eyes on how Tottenham would cope without him and how well would Ange and the boys do against Brentford, who are no mugs by any way, shape and form, are always well organised, very well tactically drilled, and, you know, are a very good team by the numbers. We're always going to cause problems. And overall, a 2-each draw. I was moderately surprised at some of the stuff we've seen from Spurs. I think they could have done a little bit better in the game. Obviously, a very dubious substitute in the first game, never mind the penalty decisions that went against them. But for AngeBall, as it were, when I was watching this game, I could see a lot of, you know, where Ange is going with the team and a lot of the routes to go and a lot of the different patterns of play that, you know, I've seen at Celtic to great success, and I think we're going to see, you know, shine through at Tottenham over the next couple of matches until he gets a real rhythm into that Tottenham team. So we'll be going through that in the video today. At any point, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something, or, you know, whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel. We're pushing for 10,000 subscribers, and we cannot do that without your support, guys. So if you do enjoy the content, drop a subscribe, leave a like, and drop a wee comment down below and let me know what you think of the video and what we're going on about. And let's just get stuck into it. When we seen the team come out, the biggest surprise for me was Ollie Skip. Now, there's some other midfielders that maybe featured in pre-season, but we've seen with some of the clips of Ange across pre-season, he's not been impressed with Højbjerg and one or two others. So Skip coming in here is one of these lieutenants. Ange loves guys that are very obedient and can follow instruction, and we've seen a lot of players at Celtic really level up through just being able to be coachable, you know, and Ollie Skip definitely seems like that type of footballer that will do what the manager asks him and can deliver simple passing, tackling, dueling success to an efficient enough degree to perhaps get the team kind of started before they go and get somebody proper. Maddison stood heads and shoulders in this game above a lot of other players. What I would call the Rio Hatate role. He was allowed to go really anywhere in the pitch he really wanted to. He was tackling, he was getting involved, and all the real playmaking efforts in the final third were centred around all of his creation and all the kind of spaces he was able to take up. And Bissouma was quite good at going a little bit of box to box. We've seen him get into some areas like this, and he was doing quite well with doing some recoveries as well. I thought Van de Ven looked pretty good. He recovered a few times, some decent balls. I thought Vicario looked handy enough, if not a little bit crazy. And Romero looked solid for the 15 minutes that he did play, scored his goal, and also had to come off with that concussion situation, maybe suspected, and at which time we've seen Sanchez come on. Now, at that stage of the game, Tottenham are 1-0 up. Cristian Romero's just scored. They're looking good. They're actually getting into some good rhythm of play. Maddison's really dictating the tempo. And then the key centre half, the experienced defender here that was on screen is now out the picture, and you're left with Destiny Udogie, Emerson Royale, who really does look like Anthony Robson on the pitch in terms of how he plays. Just a big muscle of a right back that likes getting up and down the park. Doesn't have much grace or finesse about him, certainly. But, you know, that really did upset the balance in this team. It really did. And Brentford capitalised upon it with a dodgy penalty, the weakest penalty you're ever going to see in your life. And then, you know, the goal they did get from open play. And it really did rock Spurs, and this is where they did really seem to become a little bit disjointed, and maybe some of the players started reverting back into type and what they're a bit more kind of safer with. And then Spurs did kind of struggle to huff and puff and make a few chances. Son, Kulusevski and Richarlison, I didn't see any of them really combining together effectively or very often. And it really did feel in the forward line in particular, they just didn't create that very much many chances at all. Emerson Royale gets the equaliser right before half-time, and you're thinking Tottenham might be able to come out and do something here. Now, the second half I found really interesting because with the 5 subs rule, I've always seen Ange Postecolgou make lots of changes throughout the second half to keep the tempo of the game high and keep the other team on the back foot. We didn't see any subs until close to the 80th minute, which I found quite odd, but it tells you the game state. It was very much in the balance, and Tottenham were looking good. They were building up some nice little patterns of play, and in particular as the game went on, we've seen more and more of Emerson Royale perhaps coming into these positions here along with Destiny Udogie, and they were trying to really, because against Brentford's back 5, which they had for the majority of the game, I know they went to a back 4 towards the end, you know, there's not a lot of space to play in here, you know, so if you've got a front 3 that are really broken apart and not connecting well, you then need to get your midfielders a much higher to fill in some of these spaces and make connecting passes and playing into spaces with one another much easier. And as the game went on in the second half, we definitely seen a lot more of Royale coming into these areas here when they were in possession, as well as Udogie as well. Even so much so that we actually found Udogie over in the right wing position at least once, if not twice, through the game. And this gave me huge Greg Taylor Taylor deja vu, where Greg Taylor would play inverted fullback, and that left wing back, left back, whatever, playing centre midfield in that inverted fullback role, they then get the license to be the overload player and go up here and cause the extra man, and then who's picking up the runner and overloading and overlapping and causing some extra problems. And we've seen more of that kind of happen on in the second half, and then as some more success started to come is when we started to see the changes. We've seen Perisic come on, and we've seen Sarr. Now, I didn't really see much of Sarr, to be quite honest, in the game. But Perisic looked really lively and like a really good wing outlet. He was doing quite well at beating the first man and putting a delivery in, but wasn't much more beyond that. But there was a lot of promising signs here. There was a lot of good kind of shape-up play here, and I do feel that there will be a bit of an overreaction, perhaps, to maybe some of the individual performances. But with a manager like Ange, and when you're taking on a philosophy and a system and this full-on style of play, it's not just like, I play 4-3-3 rather than 4-2-3-1 or some sort of minor detail like that. It's a really thoroughly different system to any other manager that Tottenham have had in recent history. So it's going to be some change for some of the guys here. And I do feel that there was a lot of good promising signs there from a lot of the players that you think might go on to become important players in this team. I've got full belief when the next game comes around, it'll probably be the same team that starts. And I think Tottenham will be very active in the transfer market at the moment, trying to get some more bits and pieces in, because Van de Ven looked the part, and if they can keep that level of talent ID up, like, I do like most of the back line so far. Like Vicario, really, I really did like him. I love a crazy goalkeeper, and he is crazy. And I liked Romero when he was on with Van de Ven. I thought he looked nice and solid. And again, starting from the beginning in the next match, you don't see Romero leave with an early substitute. You might get a more coherent performance from Tottenham. And like I say, this was a 2-each draw with a really dodgy penalty and losing your key centre back to like maybe concussion protocol or something like that in the 15th minute. So considering that, how kind of disjointed and how really the lack of fluidity that we've seen in the front line, I don't think that's a bad result, by the way, like I really don't. And I think we'll see this team only continue to improve in this vein. And I think once you start to see Son, Richarlison and Kulusevski really link up with one another, go beyond, play 1-2s with one another, and get some of those tap-ins at the back post perhaps as well with some of the balls that are likely always going to get fired across the box, then, I think this Tottenham team will start to beat a lot of teams and maybe start to fight up the league. A draw against Brentford away from home, opening game of the season, isn't the worst result. It's definitely not the best. And I think Big Ange and, the Tottenham faithful would have wanted a victory there. I say, considering how soft the penalty was. But I've got some faith for Ange. I've got some faith for Tottenham after this first game that, they're on the right road. And, with some progress, we might see some real AngeBall in the Premier League, and we'll get to see how effective that could be and how many goals Tottenham might go on to score. I'm not sure Richarlison is good enough to replace Harry Kane, but we know how tight Daniel Levy can be historically, so it'll be interested to see, will they go after Joe David, will it be Gift Orban? There's a lot of guys getting mentioned, and I think Richarlison is not a mega presser, and I think Ange really needs this spearhead player to be a mega presser, to really work his socks off the whole 9 yards right across the pitch and really work that back line of the opposition. Like I mentioned, it is hard against Brentford when they play a back five. It's almost impossible to do that. So they somewhat negate the Ange mega press that he puts on. So again, maybe in the next game, we'll see a totally different front three, because they're probably not going to be playing against a back five very often in the grand scheme of things, With the next 3 matches being at home at Man United, away to Bournemouth, and then playing in the Cup against Fulham, I think we've got 3 good fixtures on the bounce here for Tottenham, where they can start to get a tempo and get a little bit of vein of form. Any positive result against Man United in the next match will give the group a little bit of a bounce, and then going into that game away to Bournemouth, I would fancy Tottenham to go for the jugular and really attack, get some goals. And then in the Cup, it's a bit of a free hit to go on and do the same thing. And then you look at Burnley and Sheffield, 2 potentially very good and very appealing games before the next big test, which is Arsenal. I would put Brentford in the category of being a bit of a test because of how well they did last season and how well organised and how stable they are. Same manager, not many transfers, not much upheaval there by comparison. So I think that is a really sturdy test that Tottenham have faced on the first game of the season. And between now and the Arsenal game, which is quickly followed by a game against Liverpool, I think there'll be a lot of development. There's a lot of progress that needs to be made if they're going to be getting good results. But, let's see how they fare. Let me know in the comment section what you think. Will they bridge the gap? Will they continue to improve so that by the time we get to the first North London derby of the season, what condition will Tottenham be in? Let me know what you think in the comment section. On screen there now with some other stuff that I've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. Stay out of trouble, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.